I think a decent amount of people here that we can start to get started. So thank you everyone for coming to our little info session on the education programs that we have at AmeriCorps at Serve Minnesota. Just a few housekeeping things to get started. If you could please keep yourselves on mute while other people are speaking, just so that people in the audience don't get distracted with background noises and screens aren't switching, that would be really appreciated. And then if you want to ask questions, we're encouraging all of the attendees to ask questions, so you can put them either in the chat box or if at the end of a conversation you just want to unmute and ask a question that way, that is totally fine as well. So please ask whatever is on your mind. And then I guess I should introduce myself. I am Grace Partial. I am an AmeriCorps campus ambassador at the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. And I've been working with Serve Minnesota since about October, so almost a full academic year. And I'm really excited to be running this event. And I'll let the other Grace introduce herself as well.
Hi, everybody. I am the other host. My name is Grace Ketcha, the other Grace. I've been a Serve Minnesota ambassador at the University of Minnesota since October, just like Grace as well. And I love everything about it. I love being able to get the word out and share to students and non-students about opportunities that they have. So for those that are unfamiliar about what AmeriCorps is, it is a national service organization that provides services throughout the U.S. And Serve Minnesota is just based in Minnesota, but there are other programs just like it in other states. We have about 17 programs. Some that you're probably familiar with are College Possible, Reading Corps, Math Corps, just to name a few, but we have a bunch. And I guess what your service year would look like if you chose one of those organizations would be, you would select the one of your choosing, begin your training with them. They teach you everything about them, how it would be like being one of their service members. And then after your training, you would start your year of service with them. As you're serving, you do get a stipend. It is around $600 to $700, I believe, but the number is increasing. And then after your service, you are awarded a $6,000 scholarship that could be used towards your tuition, graduate school, etc. And then if you choose to serve another year, then your stipend doubles. So there are many benefits to serving. We have a lot of, since this is the educational informational session, we have some members that are currently serving here to tell you about what they do in the program.
Yeah, so I'll just quickly go through and introduce who are panelists today. As Grace said, some of them are current service members, some of them are alumni. So we have JoJo from the Total Learning Classroom, which is a Reading Corps program. We have Sumi who is a Math Corps alum. We have Jessica, who's from City of Lakes, and she's also a current staff member. We have Will and Emily, who are current Promise Fellows at Murray Middle School. And then we also have Simeon who's a College Possible member. So if all of those people, I'll just start with the list I went down. If you just want to tell everyone about where you're currently serving or where you did serve, kind of what that experience looked like for you, and just kind of introduce yourself. If we want to start with JoJo.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Is this okay? Okay. Hi, my name is JoJo. I was a Reading Corps member this year. I still am technically a Reading Corps member this year at Ann Sullivan School, which is a pre-K-8 in the Seward neighborhood in Minneapolis. I was placed in a first grade classroom, and then I also worked with a few third graders as well. I heard about the program through a professor that I had, and it worked out really perfectly for me because I had a little gap year in between finishing my undergrad and starting graduate school, which I will be doing in June for my teaching license. And so it was perfect because my teaching license program starts in June, and I got to have this whole past school year getting experience working with a school staff, working in a public school, just like gaining that experience and seeing what it's like to actually work within a school in a school district, and seeing what it takes to make all of that happen, which has been really awesome. And as well as getting the scholarship at the end of my service term to be able to help me afford grad school when I get there. Yeah, I just got lots of contacts, lots of experience, lots of time observing teachers, and the best part obviously is spending lots of time around kids and just growing in that and making some really awesome relationships with students.
Great, thank you. Sumi, if you want to share about MathCorps.
Yes, hi, I can go next. Hi, my name is Sumi Lee, and I was a Minnesota Math Corps member for 2 years from 2013 to 15, so it's a few years ago. I joined AmeriCorps. I wasn't familiar with AmeriCorps at that time. I was transitioning back to Minnesota from South Korea, where I finished my undergraduate degree. And I wanted to just look for an opportunity where I can kind of get plugged back into the community, because I thought that would be the easiest way to kind of settle. And then I kind of grew up going back and forth between different countries, so I experienced a lot of different school systems. And from a very young age, I've always been like, oh, I don't like that. When I become an adult, I want to fix that and change that, right? So I've been kind of driven to go into education policy, but I wasn't a trained teacher, so I was looking for opportunities where I can kind of gain that firsthand experience in schools. And Minnesota Math Corps was kind of the perfect opportunity for me. I applied. I got placed at Central Park Elementary School here in Roseville, Minnesota. I ended up teaching with, well, I was tutoring at that school, but I ended up working with my third grade school teacher, so that was really cool. Let me see, I can address questions I guess later, but my day-to-day kind of look like, well, you get there a little early in the morning and you're constantly working closely with the teachers. I tutored 24 students, so fourth through sixth grade. They were paired up, so I had 12 different pairs each school year. And it just really allowed me to build special relationships with the students because I was working closely with them in smaller groups, right? So a few months back, right before we got into quarantine, I actually went out for dinner at a pizza place, and my waiter student was one of the students that I had when he was in fifth grade. And he was one of those students who gave me a really hard time because he had a lot of, we had issues getting along in the beginning, and then he became one of those students who gained his math scores and all that, like, turned around so much. And he was so excited to see me when I saw him a few months ago, and he was excited to tell me that he's a senior in high school and he's taking all these advanced math programs because, and I mean, I don't know to what degree it's all true, but he was telling me it's because of the positive experience he had with math since leaving my tutoring sessions. So that's just one kind of small highlight story, but it's through your AmeriCorps experience, you can really, really make that kind of change. And that was the kind of change I wanted to make I was looking to make after my finishing my undergraduate degree. So from the service in AmeriCorps, you will make friends, you will gain professional networks that Jojo mentioned earlier. You will receive your educational awards that help me put myself through grad school. But the most important thing I think I learned from my experience in AmeriCorps was that I tell people that AmeriCorps experience kind of built the foundation of my career. So I'm really driven to make a change because I believe that I can make that change. I believe that when people come together to solve big issues, big structural issues in our society that seems overwhelming, the power of service can actually solve those issues when you come together. So I hope you really consider applying and becoming an AmeriCorps member.
It was great. Thank you for sharing that story. That's awesome. So we'll hear from Jessica next from City of Lakes.
Right. Hi, I'm Jessica. I currently work for City of Lakes AmeriCorps as a coordinator, but I served in the program when I graduated from college from 2014 to 2016. I went to the U of M, and I have my degree in psychology and Spanish. All I knew was I wanted to help people and I wanted to work with kids, and I like to speak Spanish. And it was actually a graduate advisor at the U who said the word AmeriCorps to me, and I wish I knew who she was because I just want to like send her a gift because she gave me the greatest gift. I honestly, like, I tell everybody AmeriCorps changed my life. And I don't mean to say that like in a cheesy way because I'm not that type of person at all that's like super sentimental, but it truly did because it offered me the opportunity to work in a school full time to serve language learners. Our program serves long-term English learners in middle schools. I also was like, middle school though, but like to this day, favorite age group. They're so solid, bunch of gems. And I got to be full-time on the teacher schedule, working with tons of teachers and also connecting with like social workers and counselors and office staff and the transportation people and all the other people that are considered educators that aren't just teachers, because there's tons you can do in education that isn't just being a teacher. I learned a lot about youth development. I learned a lot about advocating for students and for young people and for equity in education. Our program talks a lot about, we do a lot of training and discussion around those big equity issues. We talk about systemic racism in the schools. We talk about white supremacy. We talk about immigration law, poverty, homelessness, and how those things affect our students and families and staff. And so it just really, everything that we learned and talked about has guided me and has, like Simi said, set really, a really solid foundation. Simi said about her career. And so after serving for 2 years, I decided to pursue my master's in urban education at Metro State. And so I will be a teacher next year. But I think the biggest thing is that it is hands-on in AmeriCorps. You are on the ground, you are serving people, you are every single day in front of students if you're in an education program. And I always tell people who are considering AmeriCorps or wondering what to do next, like, experience is always going to be your biggest asset. And I think my experience in AmeriCorps and working with students in Minneapolis has definitely been an asset. I was able to make connections with different principals and across the district in different departments. And everything I learned has guided me to what I want to do today. And so AmeriCorps changed my life. I tell everybody, everyone should serve in AmeriCorps at least for a year. It truly is an invaluable experience and just full of learning and broadening your perspective. And I just want to say one more thing, that even if you're in an education program, like, we have engineers in our program, we have pre-med students, we have, people who are not in anything related to education, but working with young people in the education system, which is a huge system that mirrors a lot of our other systems in the world. So it's just a really unique experience. I have loved it. And I'm really grateful to have been a part of AmeriCorps and to still be part of it. So.
Thank you. And thank you for pointing that out, that you are not limited by your major to apply for really any AmeriCorps program, but especially the education ones, you can be pursuing anything or not even have a degree. Next we'll hear from, we have 2 Promised Fellows, like I said, so we'll hear from Will first.
Hey, so I'm serving at Murray Middle School in St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm a Promised Fellow there, one of 2. Not every site has multiple Promised Fellows, but I was very fortunate enough to be able to work with Emily throughout this year. I heard about the position through an old middle school teacher of mine who actually works at Murray. We were just like catching up over lunch one day and he mentioned it, and I like literally within the next 3 days had signed up, been approved, and like this was like a week or 2 before the school year was even starting, so it was like very quick, like fast paced. I was like kind of thrown in there, and I've been grateful of it every moment since. My AmeriCorps service on a day-to-day basis looks for me a lot like running around with my kids, talking them through stressful situations, helping them with homework, just being there as a caring adult, pretty much, is like overall how I describe it. I do tutoring for some students. I do just like listening sessions for others. And then like goal setting is kind of the big thing. Otherwise, uh, one of my favorite stories is just of like, I have a student who pre-COVID, when we were in school in session face to face, she refused to go to class. Like, she didn't want to be in her classes, and we tried to find so many different opportunities for her to be able to learn without necessarily sitting in a full classroom. And just like, she was just very defiant about the whole thing, and she didn't want to, and she didn't want to talk to me. And they hit a point in the school year where she literally was just like, just avoiding me. And then COVID happened, and as learning turned like went to be more of an individual based kind of system, it was like the first day of distance learning, she immediately called me, and she's just like, okay, now I want your help, because now I need a schedule so that I can figure this out. And like, I don't know, it was very validating in that moment, because I'm like, well, yeah, they recognize what I'm here for. My students recognize what I'm here for, even if they don't always need my services or want me on their backs telling them to get their homework done. And it just made me like reflect on all the adults that were in my life at that time doing the exact same thing, and how much resistance I gave them until like the moment called for it. And now she's just like a shining star. She does all of her work, and she'll call me and just be like, hey, can I like finish this assignment early? Do you think my teacher will be mad at me for that? Like, and I'm like, no, do it early, get it done. Like, I don't know. So it warms my heart every time. And I have a lot of students who like started the year very hesitant to trust staff members and things like that. And like a lot of them very literally would like approach me with language of, I don't like staff. And my response was always, well, I'm not technically staff. And I don't know. It's always good. I work with about 21 students right now. My focus list was to hit about 30, and then circumstance changed it. Now my day-to-day just looks like tutoring sessions for the most part. I do tutoring over the phone. And then I have office hours available for students who need any other kind of support, pretty much. And I guess I've just gained a lot of like reflective ability from my service, and an appreciation for like teachers and staff within school buildings that are like kind of hidden heroes, and the people who are really like working behind the scenes to make sure that a school is running like smoothly too. I've spent a lot of time talking to just like all the staff within the building. And I've gained a lot of like hope for the future, because a lot of the students kind of instilled that into me, their different values. After this term of service ends, I plan to continue working for AmeriCorps for at least another year. And I kind of know what that'll look like, but I guess overall, I'm just really excited to get back into being able to connect with people and help others and whatnot. Someone who's unsure about service, I'd say just like try it, like every opportunity is going to bring about something new, whether it be a new lesson, a new experience, a new learning something about yourself that you may or may not know. And it was definitely a valuable experience for me. I didn't think that it would be worth it to start with, especially looking at like the stipends and things like that. And I walked into it having a lot of fear, and came out of it more than happy that I did it. Like I love my job. I love waking up and going to work still, even if it means just moving from my bed to the bench 3 feet away from my bed. It's still, I don't know, warms my heart every day. Thank you.
Thanks, Will. And it's really cool to hear that your students are doing well, even with the move to online. I know a lot of the education programs are kind of thrown for a loop. So that's really cool that your students are adaptable, and you, all of our service members, are as well. So, and Emily, if you want to talk about your Promise Fellow experience and where you're serving as well.
Yeah. So me and Mr. Will get to share an office. I work at Murray with him as well. That's like, I don't know. I ended up at AmeriCorps through someone who worked at the Minnesota Alliance with Youth. So the Promise Fellow program goes through the Minnesota Alliance with Youth. And so the person that I was friends with was actually working with the youth council that they have. So anyways, she got me connected to the program, thought I was gonna, I don't know, thought I would be a good fit. My education background is like in with children and youth in crisis, and I wanted to kind of know or get experience within the education realm. I didn't know whether that was where I wanted to go, like in my career professionally. I don't know, didn't have a whole lot of direction. I just knew that I wanted to work with kids. And so I decided that this was a good place to start. And so I applied at like 5 different sites and ended up getting hired at Murray. I got hired, I think, in the beginning of April, and was super pumped to know that I was going to have a coworker. And so that was a super cool thing to like come out of just our like term of service. Is like me and Mr. Will are the best of pals now, and we get to work together again next year because we're both continuing to do service together. So we'll be at the Minnesota Alliance with Youth together, but that'll be fun. Anyways, day to day for service for me, I don't know, it looks a little bit different, and that's what I love about the Promise Fellow program is like the caring adult label kind of, I don't know, is your umbrella term for what you do, but you get to kind of make that what you want. So for me, that's looked a lot like pulling students out of classes when they are in classes that they're like, I can't be in there, like I can't deal with this teacher or the people that are in there or whoever, or whatever the issue is. Sometimes it'll look like me pulling them out of there and then creating a strategy for, hey, how can we go back to this class and do it better? How can we I don't know, create a goal or create growth out of that. Sometimes it looks like going into a classroom where I know classroom management is really hard for a teacher, or I have like a bunch of my students in the same particular class and we get to just do work together. So it can kind of look like a lot of different things, but in general, it just gives you the opportunity to build relationships with students. I know one of my, I don't know, the most significant thing for me that was really validating, like towards the beginning of my service, was I was working with a student and I had just added her to my focus list, and she was somebody that I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go. Like I'm working in a middle school, but she was like honestly kind of intimidating to me. I was like, I don't know, like she just doesn't like connect with a lot of staff and like doesn't necessarily connect with a lot of students either. So I was just nervous. I was like, I don't know how this conversation is going to go or what this relationship is going to look like. But we had like our initial meeting and got to know her a little bit, just did an activity, a getting to know you thing. And then we had a couple more meetings throughout the weeks, and then I think I probably had her on my focus list for like a month. And she ended up getting in trouble one day. There was like something that happened and she recorded something that she shouldn't have. And so she like ended up in the principal's office, and the principal was like, hey, I need to take your phone. Like you had this video of this thing on your phone and like you're not allowed to have it. And it almost turned into like this power struggle, because she was like, no, I'm not going to give you that. Like I'm not okay with that. And so then he asked the question, like, okay, is there an adult in the building that you would give it to that's not me? And she said that she would give it to me. And so the principal was able to call me into the office and just say, hey, here's the situation. This student doesn't feel comfortable giving their phone to me, but they're willing to give it to you. Can you hold it for her for the rest of the day and just like have that be where we keep it? And that was, I don't know, it was kind of a strange situation to be in the middle of, but that's part of what you get to do as a Promise Fellow, is just be kind of a bridge between staff and students, where there might be power struggles or where there might be I don't know, just disconnects. You get to be kind of the middle there for students and help them to feel comfortable and to grow and to have solid relationships with the other adults in the school. So yeah. And another note too, like you don't have to go into education, because I found out that I don't necessarily want to go into education. So I'm after my term of service next year, will be pursuing like nursing, and that's something that I was able to like find an interest and a passion for in the middle of service. And um, yeah, so it doesn't necessarily mean like doing a term doesn't mean that you have to continue doing what you're doing, but it can be a really awesome opportunity to take a year and just learn about yourself and about what you can do to serve the world. So yeah.
Cool, thank you, Emily. And then we have Simeon left to hear about your experience.
Yeah, so hello everyone, my name's Simeon. I currently work with College Possible in Minnesota's site, and my specific job is tech connected. So with College Possible, we have a high school program where we're in the schools themselves, and that's where I got introduced to College Possible was my high school year, which is about 2011, 2012. That's I was in College Possible my junior year, and then my coach, who was still working with College Possible, was actually how I got into College Possible to work with them. So it was like a full circle type of thing. Like he's now my supervisor, and I'm now part of the College Possible team. So the reason I actually went to work with College Possible was mainly because I was using it as a gap year in a way. Because I'm still currently at College Possible. This is my first year, but I majored in business marketing, and after school I went into sales jobs, and I realized that I didn't really find the connection with sales or that business aspects because I wasn't really serving or doing anything meaningful, or it was what I saw in my mind, since I just felt like I should be doing something that was producing like growth or something. So then I took the time to really look into options. And one of my friends told me he was at College Possible. And I told him that, oh yeah, that's actually what helped me get into the University of Minnesota, and they really helped me through the University of Minnesota. So I really enjoyed the work that they did. So I felt like it was something that I could work for, and it was a service that I could do. And then he told me about the money part. And I was like, oh, I'm coming from a sales job. I have commission also. So like I enjoyed that part of things. But when I saw that the amount of students that were still in this program, that motivated me to want to at least give them the type of service that I had got from my coaches coming into that. So I just told myself, this is just 1 year of doing it, that I would at least be able to find a pathway while I'm here. And since I've been here, I've been really enjoying it, because it's like a lot of students, I'm starting to connect with them because their backgrounds are similar to mine. And it hits close to home when you actually get to work with students that are from the same background as you. Like you get to actually really feel what they're going through, you understand, and it just feels like a mission at that point, that you want to be able to, like, I made it here because of this program. I want to be able to do the same for you in a way. So then I've just been working with them. So the Tech Connected is we're working over the pretty much phone, either through Facebook, calling our students, texting them. We can have face to face with them. It depends on them. So in my portfolio, I have 130 students about, and they're from different schools in the metro area. So University of Minnesota, Duluth, Rochester, Hennepin Tech, pretty much whatever schools. So my job day to day is to really reach out to at least or about 40 of them, just to see what they're doing, where they're at, if they've registered, because the goal is to try to get them through the college, to persist, and then to graduate. So we want to, persistence is really what calculates if you're going to pass that semester or not. So we make sure they're hitting those goals and those targets. And then once they're at their final year, really try to get them connected with different career services, internships, or really anything that's going to set them up for that world. And then while I've been here, it's also been really helping me out personally, because this has been like a big, I guess, personal mission for me, personal quest, because I got to take the time to really find out, like, yeah, I do want to make money, but I don't want to do it without having a real mission or a real end goal with this. So it really got me to really reevaluate my life and just take my career path a different way. So while I've been here, I actually networked with my director and all that, and we've gone pretty much got me into a programming um thing now. So I'm learning how to program through like a University of Minnesota continuing education program. So while I'm working here, I'm also just programming and hoping that after all of this, I'm able to use the education award for that programming and then find a job in the programming field. Because then with programming, there's a lot of different things I feel like I can do, and then I can give back with programming to make things also easier for like people that are now working where I'm working. So it's just been really like a personal mission in a way for me, just help me find like the true path that I want to take to my career. And this AmeriCorps has been a very big help in just helping me find that path, and I'm grateful for it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Grace, I don't know if you want to chime in.
Going off of Grace, yeah, thank you all for your service. It seems like with the service that you've all been doing, you're able to find your calling in some way or form. And it's been very beneficial. So I know we just threw a lot of information at the audience, so I want to open it up to the floor and ask if there's any specific questions you guys have for our members that have just spoken.
I have a question for Jessica with City Lakes. How did you work with your middle school students, and what was your goal with your group?
Yeah, we, when I was a member and still now with some tweaks, members have a caseload of 10 long-term English learners in a middle school, and they work really closely with the ESL teacher, who's generally their like site supervisor. There's between 2 and 5 members at each site, so you're never by yourself. And between you, you're all part of an academic language class using a curriculum developed specifically for long-term English learners. So your role is really support, but if you're someone who is interested in becoming a teacher, maybe like by the middle of the year, towards the end, you might start leading things on your own. So members support that language class, and then they also help their students throughout the day in other classrooms to access that content through language. So working on writing and writing complete sentences, punctuation, turning work in, staying focused. A lot of our long-term learners are super checked out just due to the nature of the system. And so it's a lot of like mentorship, coaching. You build really strong relationships with those 10 and other students. And then our members also do some after school. So they might teach some enrichment classes, or they might do some tutoring after school. So you're full-time in the school following these 10 kids throughout the day and really focusing on them and their academics and their just like general well-being.
So do you work like with that 10 all at once, or is it like groups of like 2 or 4, or how does that look?
It is usually they're all in that class with you with other students, the language class. And usually that's the only time you'd see all of them at once. So if you go into their math class, for example, you might have 2 students in your math class that you would help, but you're also helping other students in the class. So you're not just, sometimes they feel singled out, as I'm sure some of you know. Why are you following me around? Why do you always ask if I need help? Because they feel kind of singled out by that. So it is like helping everyone with the focus in your mind on those kids in that class. So sometimes it's small groups and sometimes it isn't. It just kind of depends on the day.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
There's a question in the chat.
Yeah, I can speak to that. Can members hold another job on evenings or weekends? Yes, totally. You can't have, if you're, at least for the Promise Fellow program, if you're serving like a full term of service, you can't have another full-time position, but I worked like 10 to 15 hours every week on the weekends, just doing, like, I worked in a restaurant. So it's totally possible, totally doable. Yeah.
And I was doing work in the evenings as well, so evenings is also very possible. I was working about an additional 10 hours a week total, so it wasn't a lot, but
We have a question in the chat. What do tutors do now since schools are distance learning? So I'm sure that you guys have all adapted in different ways. So if you could just kind of say what your programs have been doing, whoever wants to start with that.
I can do a quick one. For reading core, something that we've been doing for the kids since distance learning started. Obviously, I work with the youngest population almost of school age kids because I work with first grade, so they love stories and books. So I've just been filming myself reading reading children's books and getting it up on their Google Classroom through the classroom teacher. So like last week it was Earth Day, so I filmed myself reading the Lorax for them and then had them answer a question on their Google Classroom like, oh, what was the main message of this and what did it make you think about and stuff like that. So that's one thing.
Do any other, I know that really only affects current service members, and some people had already mentioned it, but if anyone else wants to chime in on what they've kind of had to adapt to with COVID.
I can as well. Our members are also added to the Google Classrooms, and they're doing like Google Meets Hangouts with their kids to do tutoring and checking in. Our members are also, part of our program is parent involvement, and so they contact their parents twice per month for positive reason. And so a lot of them are calling parents and saying, like, do you have a Chromebook? Do you have Wi-Fi? And connecting them with resources or bringing Chromebooks to their houses. Some of our members are also doing childcare for healthcare workers. So we've adapted that way, and then another thing they're doing is online enrichment. So they're leading like online crafts or online anime discussion or whatever, or doing like pre-recorded cooking tutorials for students, all online. So it's been surprisingly easy to adapt. While it's definitely like not as fun or engaging, it's been surprisingly easy to adapt to it. It's just been hard to get all families those resources to be able to engage.
I have a question. So I really appreciate all of the work that AmeriCorps does. Like, I'm really interested in a variety of the work that's being done, in particular the City of Lakes program. I'd like to apply, but the main thing that's holding me back is I'm just worried about the cost of living and the amount of the stipend that comes with the AmeriCorps position. And so I was just wondering, could you just talk a little bit about how you manage to survive on the stipend that you get? Like, do you have an extra job, or do you get government benefits, or like what techniques do you use to live off of that?
So it's not obviously like it's not the easiest pay grade to live on. I will say, like, I also worked just like a few hours a week at another job. And then another thing is, since it's considered a stipend, it's like a weird thing about being considered income. So you are able to apply for SNAP food assistance benefits, which is something that I did, and another good friend of mine that also served in AmeriCorps this past year did. And it was like really, really nice and like a huge help financially. And they offer health care, which is a huge plus. They offer, for folks with kids, they offer some type of child care assistance, I believe. I don't have kids, but I know that was one of the things, one of the benefits that they offered. And they also, like, the scholarship at the end of the year made it kind of worthwhile. Like, I could have probably made maybe a little more money working another job, but I also earned like experience and a job that I loved and a lot of knowledge about literacy and working in a school, which obviously aren't like financial tangible things, but I think it made it worth it in the end with everything that I gained along with the stipend, if that made sense.
Yeah, for me, I pretty much made almost just enough for like covering all of my like monthly things that I needed. And then my second job was like the perfect amount to like compensate for the money that I wasn't getting. Not to mention the benefits do make up for it between SNAP and because it doesn't count as it doesn't count as income in all cases. With the SNAP program, child assistance, and then the Promise Fellow program, at least I'm not sure exactly about all the other programs, but they have like health insurance and whatnot included in it. So it's like it somewhat pays off. It adds up to a larger amount than you're actually seeing hit your bank account. But the fact that it's not hitting your bank account makes it that much harder in the moment. Like, to be very real with you, it was hard. It definitely sucked, but the smiling faces, the experience, and the kids definitely made it worth it. I'm definitely gonna like second that as well. I would do it again in a heartbeat just because I know that I was being paid in more than just a living stipend, and that's like exactly what it is living stipend. Like, I don't know, it was enough to cover my rent on top of food, and that was like the bulk. Like, there's just a lot less fun time.
One other like practical thing I'll add on, I know for the Promise Fellow program, you and I would assume for the rest of the programs too, you can put your student loans into forbearance. And so there's like a process they have you go through at the beginning of the year through your My AmeriCorps account. And so you don't end up having to make any student loan payments during your term of service. And then maybe this is the part that's specific to the Promise Fellow program, but they'll actually, the Minnesota Alliance with Youth pays off any interest that was accrued like during your term of service. And so while you weren't paying for your loans, they'll also pay for the interest that was accrued during that time. So that's also a nice benefit.
Thank you very much to all three of you.
So we have a question about the AmeriCorps Emergency Response Initiative. This is a new program that was just rolled out, and it came together really fast within the last couple weeks in response to COVID. It's not an education-specific program, but it is an opportunity. I believe the service term is June 8th through August 15th. And so it's a perfect little like 3-month full-time service. And it's basically helping out within Minnesota. There's opportunities to serve in the metro area or throughout the state to provide relief for different organizations like nonprofits, schools, basically a number of different host sites to help relieve the current situation. So you could be doing a bunch of different tasks. I know my boss can confirm this, but I think that the host sites will be released later this week, so people would know where they'd actually be applying to serve. But you could do anything from prepping meals at schools, meals collection sites, to helping with distance learning or assisting homeless populations. So there's really going to be a variety. For sure, once the host sites come out, there'll be more information. But if you go to Serve Minnesota's website, there is information about the Emergency Response Initiative. So definitely look into it. If you're looking for something to do this summer, it's a great program. And the stipend is a little higher, I think, for the Emergency Response Initiative. They're trying to really get people to help out and come together to serve. So I can put a link in the chat for more information about that as well. But. I don't know if we have more questions from the audience. For sure, put them in the chat. But one thing that I'd like to ask all of our panelists that are here is, what is one thing that you wish you knew like before you were going into serving? Like, what do you wish someone would have told you, whether it's good or bad or anything, for people who are thinking about it?
I guess I'll say I wish I knew like how much of my service term was going to really be up to me, and how much of like the work that I did was going to be like dependent on my ability to like take initiative and like build relationships with students. At least at my host site, my position was like relatively unstructured, and so they kind of just like unleashed us a little bit into the school, and they were like, okay, go do the thing, like, and obviously we were given training in the model by the Alliance with Youth, but a lot of it got to just be like me and whatever I ended up wanting to make it. So I wasn't super prepared for that, but it ended up being a really cool thing and got to take ownership over it more than I expected to be able to. So
Yeah, I definitely second that. Like you don't know what it looks like until you're there. Like they give you training and they give you get really prepared, but like you don't know what it's like to do it till you do it. I guess I wish I would have realized, even someone who like I went to my undergrad knowing I want to go into teaching, and like so even someone who'd worked with students lots of times before and everything, I wish I would have realized like what it really takes to get like a school functioning. There were lots of different things that happened this school year that kind of show like just how many needs like a public school is meeting. And so I guess I wish I would have realized just how much that takes, but at the same time I got to learn and I got to see it, and I got to be a part of staff meetings and team meetings and parent meetings and all of that stuff. So I got to learn, and it's like definitely invaluable for me going into a career in education, but I don't see how any of those experiences would be invaluable to anyone, because it's like really great way to teach you teamwork and collaboration.
The only thing for me I can think of, just because I don't know, I didn't know a whole lot before I went into AmeriCorps, so I learned a lot, but I guess I wish I had known more of the variety of opportunity in AmeriCorps before I had before I even applied. I think I applied for a program that was Vista, which is not hands-on with other humans. It's like more behind the scenes, and I almost like did that job not knowing I wouldn't be working with students. So just like learning that there's a lot of programs, there's a lot of options for how your service year could even look as well. Like at least in our program, there's different like term options, and I know a lot of other programs have that as well. So I think just I wish I knew a little bit more of the options. I wish I'd asked a few more questions, but I think I got really lucky joining a program that has just totally been like perfect. So yeah.
There's another question in the chat. For those who do not have an educational degree, is there a potential way to take steps towards it, such as getting a teaching certification?
I can speak to that if no one else is jumping at it. There are a lot of ways to become a teacher. I would say the most solid and best way is just to go get your license. There's actually like tiers of licensure. You can teach without having a license if you want to, if you get hired to, if there's a need for you. In Minneapolis public schools, and I know some of our reading and math core programs have access to this as well, but there's residency programs where like you can go to the U if you want to become an ESL teacher or a special ed teacher, for example. You can go to the U, pursue your master's degree in education, and still serve. You can also do that and get paid to be a resident in a school. So there's a lot of opportunity coming out of an AmeriCorps program, and a lot of connections that way. depending on which program you're in. But there are a lot of pathways to becoming a teacher. It would take a long time probably to explain all of them, but.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa from Serve Minnesota, and I just want to add on to that, Jessica. Absolutely, that's true. And I think what we hear from principals is that they hire people with AmeriCorps experience first. And so if you are, even if you don't have an education degree, serving in one of the education programs through AmeriCorps just gives you that leg up into getting to know the school, getting to know folks. And we know that our site partners across the state really value that experience.
Sometimes you'll get principals that are like, please go get your degree because I want to hire you as a teacher. So that happens too.
Yes, I did have my site coordinators and my assistant principal ask me to do my student teaching practicums at Sullivan next year when I am doing my licensure program. So that was like the biggest compliment. It was really cool to hear. Yeah, so definitely true.
Yeah, I had the principal at my site also referring me to just like a lot of different programs at Hamlin and the U of M towards getting different certifications, different licensing for a lot of different roles. He was just like, I'm gonna lay all this information out in front of you, and I really, really want you to like take it up. Which yeah, so there's a lot of ways to go about it.
And just another random thing that you can like kind of jump into as your term of service goes on. I don't know, since we're not in the school, I didn't get the opportunity to do this, but you can take advantage of like the different positions besides teachers that are in your school. So social workers or like the school nurse or counselors and those kinds of people as well. You like have the opportunity to shadow them in doing what they're doing. And then, I don't know, you can kind of get a window into all the bits of education, not necessarily just teaching. So, yeah.
Thank you for saying that, Emily. Also, just like when you're starting one thing that I wish I would have known going into it, kind of answering this question as well, is that you can do it from a lens of like shadowing for a position that you'd be interested in. When I started, they were telling me that if I'm like interested in doing counseling work in the future, I can spend more time just talking to the counselors within this within my site. And that's kind of the route that I took, was just like talking more on the counseling end of things than on the educational end of things. And so that was valuable to me for that.
Great.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I think a lot of it has been mentioned by Emily, Jojo, William, and Jessica. And it's been a few years since I did my service, but I just want to put a final plug in. Like, we're not saying this is easy. It's not easy work. It's demanding. It's long hours. When I was in service, the requirement was 17, 20 hours a year. And so that meant I was spending a good like 10 to 12 hours at the site. A Facebook memory popped up from 7 years ago today on my Facebook feed saying I was sorting crayons by different color groups for our kindergarten teacher, because just like any additional work that the teachers have going on, like you kind of end up taking them on. But like it was just a blast, and it was amazing. So they're long hours, they're tough, the kids will make you cry, like hands down. It's probably one of the hardest jobs, but also it's also worth it. You will be set up with support systems. There will be internal coaches, there will be master coaches, other people coming along coaching you on how to do your job. There's plenty of training opportunities, and everybody else said this earlier, like all the staff and the teachers are so willing to help you and guide you, because they acknowledge that we're all kind of in the beginning of our careers, and they see our passion for the kids, and that's so valuable. So I just want to, again, put in the final plug. It's probably going to be one of the best investments that you can make for yourself. Like, I had to work like 2-3 other jobs on the side to kind of make ends meet. And I just mentioned earlier, I transitioned back to Minnesota. I didn't have a whole lot of support systems, but I got through it somehow. So I want you all to really seriously consider it. It's pretty amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumi. Go ahead, Will. Yeah, if you have something.
I was actually going to say, yes, with what Sumi was saying, another opportunity to take up with it is, and another benefit of it was the opportunity to have a life coach. Throughout my term of service, I've had a life coach working with me, and we set up biweekly calls from, I think it's the official like title of the organization is Be Above Leadership, but it's like their AmeriCoaching program, and they just really help you, like taking on an AmeriCorps life coach. They really work with you through a lot of the struggles that you'll have during your term of service and help you kind of just become a better person. Set up goals for yourself, whether they have to do with your AmeriCorps position or not. Most of my work with my life coach has been revolving around my hobbies and things that aren't even related to my AmeriCorps position. And that's just been valuable because it let me like process everything too, outside of just having the job.
Great.
I have one more question if I could sneak it in. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead, of course.
Yeah, so I applied for the City of Lakes program, and I'm wondering what the hiring process is like. Is it pretty long? Is it vary? I'm just not sure what to expect.
It's pretty short. We do an interview that's more conversational and informational. I think a lot of programs do something similar. So you can get to know the program and make sure it's a good fit, and so that we can get to know you and place you at a site that we think will serve you well as well. So it's one interview, and then when we're not in a pandemic, you go to the school and meet the school and the people in the school. But unfortunately, we can't do that. So you'll probably do a video call with the staff on site, so they can just get to know you, and then you're placed. We have orientation in August for a week, and then we send you out.
Gotcha, that helps. So it's not like an acceptance. Is it kind of guaranteed acceptance, or how does that work?
If we see a fit for you in the interview, which is, it's pretty simple. I feel like maybe other AmeriCorps programs are more selective, but AmeriCorps is for the development of other people as well, like in your job. So we don't expect you to come with experience. So it's generally if you interview and you seem like a great fit, then it's an acceptance. And we just email you and say, we've accepted you. Do you want to accept too?
Okay, thank you.
Great. Well, we are pretty much out of time, unfortunately, but I want to thank everyone, all the panelists, and everyone who attended for a great session. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to go to the Serve Minnesota website. There's contact information on there. Otherwise, the Facebook page is a great way to get in contact with us. And yeah, thank you again for everyone attending. And we hope to see you serving in AmeriCorps sometime soon. Bye, guys.